This is perfect. I said I wasn't going to come out unless people were standing. So thanks for standing, and thanks for being here. And it's 5:30. I know everyone would probably rather be not here, but I'm going to try to be really, really charming. And I'm pleased to see you. So I'm Ginny. Hello. And I'm a software engineer. And I also run a social movement called #MovingForward that I will tell you about. And we're not going to have time for questions because we all have parties to go to. So if you do have questions, or if I'm confusing, or if you hate what I'm saying, you can tweet at me. That's my handle. And I would love to hear from you no matter what, because I know it's going to be a quick exit. So I run a social movement. We're called #MovingForward. And we work with venture capitalists. We currently work with 135 VCs. And those VCs represent 21 countries. So we're a global movement primarily in North America and in Europe, but also have a few VCs we work with in Asia. And we're a small team. We're all volunteers. So we all have day jobs that aren't this. But this is a passion project, a side project for us. And it's one where we're actually making a lot of change that I'm excited to tell you about. So we stand for diverse, inclusive, and harassment-free workplaces. And we work with VCs and help them think about structural things they can do to make their workplaces more diverse and inclusive. Is anyone in the audience representing any one of these amazing 14 VC firms? Yes. Woohoo! Okay, let's all give a standing ovation right here. Everyone stand up. Woohoo! Congratulations. Who are you with? Open Ocean, great. So Open Ocean is one of 14 VCs who are attending TechBBQ, who have already joined the Moving Forward movement. They've done amazing work. We met with Open Ocean in February, and all the other VCs you're seeing up here are really doing the hard work day in, day out of being diverse and inclusive. So if you know a VC at any one of these firms and you have questions about what they're doing or our movement, you should go ask them. They're doing great work. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We have 3 topics. First, we're going to talk about the power imbalances that exist inherently in venture capital. Second, we'll talk about what you can do as individuals, as members of the tech community, to level the playing field based on some of what we have seen to be successful in leveling the playing field. And then third of all, I will task each of you to go out and make beautiful, inclusive cultures where everyone feels welcome. So let's talk about VC fundraising and the power imbalances that are inherent in the structure of how VC works. So for those of you who have never raised money yourself from an investor, here are the basics of how it works. So a VC is an investor, someone who puts money into future companies. And an entrepreneur is somebody who is starting a company, right? And an entrepreneur, if they want to build a company that is going to be very high growth and affect the whole world, they're going to need some money to put that idea in motion. And so they will go to venture capitalists and ask to raise that money. So the typical kind of scheme of how entrepreneurs raise money is they start by asking their friends, family, people they know individually to back them. Then maybe they'll meet with angel investors, wealthy individuals who invest money in companies and solicit investment there. And then if they have proof of concept, if they really seem to have a product market fit and a strong idea, they'll go on to raise a seed round, and that is typically from a VC firm, an early stage VC firm. And then they will go on, if the business is growing and successful, to raise even more money, which is called Series A, Series B, Series C. And one of the interesting things about the way an investor will evaluate an entrepreneur and their idea is that what you lean on to evaluate business ideas earlier in a business's life cycle is actually pretty different than what you look for later as the business matures. So early on, there aren't business results yet. So investors are taking a bet, and they're taking a bet on the charisma of the founder, on the size of the market, on the promise of the idea, things that you can't measure but that you can feel and sense. And then later on, by the time the company gets to Series A size or Series B size, then there are more business metrics to look at, and investors are able to make a more kind of quantitative call on how the business is growing or how it could expand its work. And so early on in a business's life, it's harder to know what qualities to try to show to investors to seek their capital. And so that's where sometimes biases can creep into the fundraising process, or informal things can happen socially that can prevent people who come from underrepresented backgrounds in entrepreneurship from seeking the capital they need to start a business. So I'll give you one example. This is a founder named Catherine Muse. She's a founder in the US. She started a company called the Muse, and it's a platform that provides job-seeking advice. They've helped over 50 million people find their first job to date. Very successful company. And very early in the idea, maybe 1-2 months in to having the idea of starting a platform for job advice, Minshu attends a dinner with some prominent investors and some kind of high potential entrepreneurs. And she is meeting people and floating the idea she has. She meets an investor who's really excited by what she's building or what she's talking about. And so he asks if she can follow up with a deck, and they'll arrange a meeting later. So she sends the deck. They arrange a meeting later. It will be on Tuesday at 4 p.m. the next week. OK, so the next week arrives. It's 3 p.m. And Minshu receives an email. Hey, something came up, crazy day. Why don't we meet tonight at my hotel bar, and we'll run through the deck then. Not ideal, but OK. So she shows up later that night with her slides, everything. They pull out the deck and start to go through it. But very quickly, the questions she's receiving aren't about the business. They're starting to turn personal. And then all of a sudden, it's getting too loud. They need to move over to the couch. And then they're sitting on the couch. And then all of a sudden, his arm is behind her. And she's like trying to push the investor off of her. And she ends up just having to get up and leave because she feels like she can't speak about her business. There's other stuff this particular investor is trying to get from her. This is just one story. This is a story that happened in the US, very different culture, very different climate than here. But harassment in the workplace is something that a lot of different companies deal with. I saw a headline today that in Copenhagen, I think there was a study done recently. It said 1 in 4 women say they've experienced some sort of harassment while at work. So though it is a problem that is cultural and specific to different countries, it's also something that is happening in a lot of places. And this problem can sometimes be reflected in some of the metrics we see about what types of founders go on to raise money for their businesses. So the global metric is that 11% of startups are led by women. The sad thing about this number is that it has been the same since 2012. So that's 7 years of no improvement at all as far as the percentage of female-led startups. And here we're defining a female-led startup as either a mixed co-founding team, female-male co-founding team, or 2 women or solo female founders. And then let's look at the Nordics in particular. So within the Nordics, the statistic is 1 in 10 investments is in a startup with a female co-founder. So that's pretty on par with global, but definitely not the 50% we would want to see. And then if you look at the investing side in the Nordics, 7% of angel investors are women. And I have us look at the investing side because I believe the diversity of employees of VC firms can also contribute to the sorts of founders who feel emboldened to come in the door and pitch, and then the types of founders who ultimately seek investment or are able to lock down investment from the firm. There's a great report coming out. If you all are not aware of unconventional ventures, it is a local group, and they're actually releasing a report on gender diversity in Nordic startup funding, and that is coming out very soon, like next week, week after, something like that. So subscribe, and there's much more color on how these numbers look in the Nordics, and in particular, the amount of money raised by female founders per round, how that breaks down, et cetera. So there will be more stats public soon about how this manifests specifically here. Okay, that was really sad, but there are things that we can do. So, leveling the playing field. In 2017, it was a pretty big moment in the startup community because I think people had been looking at the numbers for a long time and knowing that the numbers weren't right, but not quite knowing why. And in 2017, at least in Silicon Valley, there were multiple news stories about harassment and discrimination that came to light and brought many very high-profile, very famous investors into scrutiny, and some of them ultimately were expelled from the firms that they started. There was also talk of sexism within tech companies. Uber was a big story, sexism at Uber. And all of that, I think, brought to light some of the way that these metrics are backed up by situations that happen in the everyday. When I look at what the major themes are with the news stories that came to light in 2017, I think there are two big ones. The first is transparency. It's hard to know if you're not sure what harassment looks like, how harassment is defined, how discrimination is defined. It's hard to know whether what you are going through counts. And it's hard to know whether to speak up, whether to talk about it, whether to approach a firm about it, if there aren't common definitions. And then secondly, accountability. When these behaviors happen, how will the perpetrators be held accountable? Historically, it's taken a dozen, 24, 30 female entrepreneurs banding together and all talking about one investor who was a serial perpetrator in order for that person to get removed from their firm. And I think we need better accountability mechanisms to address this problem as well. So I'm going to tell you a story. This is a story that happened to me and my team. And I would like for you to pretend for a minute that you're in the room with us, because it's a story where we will learn a lot. So it is November of 2017. The timeline I just showed you was October of 2017. So imagine a lot of news stories have just happened. People are starting to talk about this. Me Too became a big topic in October of 2017. So this is immediately after Me Too. And you get invited to a dinner. The dinner is hosted by Sarah Lacy. Sarah Lacy is a prominent reporter in Silicon Valley. She started Pando Daily, if anyone reads that publication. And Sarah convenes 10 female entrepreneurs just kind of in her personal network at her home for a casual dinner. They arrive, and Sarah asks the folks who showed up, so, have you ever been harassed during fundraising? Okay, what do you think? There are 10 female entrepreneurs in the room. How many think that at least one of them had been harassed? Okay, how many people think that at least 5 of them have been harassed? 7? 10? Okay, 5 of them had been harassed, so half. And then the next question that came up was, how do you know you've been harassed? And everyone in the room is like, what? But this actually pointed to a fundamental question. And the question is, do we have a definition of harassment? Do we have a way that investors and entrepreneurs have agreed that these behaviors are crossing the line, these behaviors are okay? Nobody knows. So the next question is, okay, what if you were harassed? Do you know if you were protected under a legal agreement of any kind? Did the VC have a legal agreement? And everyone at the dinner is like, well, I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. No one showed me an agreement. I'm not sure. So nobody knows. So you don't know. I don't know. Is there an agreement? Is there not? Okay, so what would you do? You're in this room, and people are asking if there's a legal agreement. What would you do? Google it? Yeah, Google it. Try to research it, search around online. Is there a legal agreement? Well, we didn't know. There was nothing online. So we called up any VCs we knew. We asked our friends. And so we're texting people. We're like, hey, what should we do if we're harassed? Like, if this were to happen, should I take a screenshot on my phone and, like, text it to you? That feels unofficial. What should we do? And the VCs actually didn't know what they were even expected to do to help entrepreneurs report to their firms. And so many of us started talking. So this is my team of 4 co-founders, and we're going back and forth, and we've spoken with a number of VC firms, and it doesn't seem like there are agreements. We are software engineers, and there is a concept in the software world of open source. And the idea behind open source is you publish your code out in the open. Anyone can see it. And because anyone can see it, it's transparent, it's out there. And then also anytime the code changes, anytime there's a PR put up or a new feature, the whole world, because it's public, has access to who made that change, when they made it, what did the change look like. If there are bugs, you can see them, you can see the code. And so we thought, what if we applied an open source methodology towards this issue? What if we put policies out in the open? And so that's what we did. We created a website. Our website is venturemovingforward.org. You can check it out now if you want. And on our website, we list all of the VCs who have written a public policy about how they will handle harassment and discrimination. So the requirements for a VC to become part of Moving Forward, the requirements that those amazing 14 VCs I showed you earlier have all done, is write a policy about harassment and discrimination. It has to define those terms. It has to say it's not okay to harass or discriminate against entrepreneurs. And then additionally, we ask for information about how to report harassment to the firm. So if I'm an entrepreneur going to your firm and I have a bad experience, who do I call? Is there someone designated within your organization who is trained to handle my story and to treat it thoughtfully and to make sure I'm connected with resources and to make sure that things are taken care of procedurally internal to the firm. And so if you, when we launched this site, it was a big press moment. We launched with 40 VC firms, all in Silicon Valley, firms you've heard of: Sequoia, Accel, Benchmark, Google Ventures, Y Combinator, a number of big names, Greylock, et cetera. And now we work with 135 firms, many of whom are here. And we hope to work with more of you. So if you're a VC we haven't reached out to yet or haven't met with yet, then I'd love to speak after this presentation. OK, so what does this mean for all of you? We all work in this industry. What can we do as individuals? And I think there are a few things. So if you are a VC, if you work at a VC, if you know a VC, things you can do. One, you can seek out diverse founders. You can proactively welcome different types of founders into your community, invite them to pitch, et cetera. You can advocate for inclusive hiring. I mentioned before that the constellation of brains around the table within your firm will dictate who chooses to approach your firm about starting a company. So you can advocate for inclusive hiring, and then beyond that, make sure that the culture of your workplace is friendly for all. And then finally, you can join Moving Forward if your firm is not already a member. And again, the two components of that are writing a policy about harassment and discrimination that applies to entrepreneurs. And then second of all, having a reporting structure internally for people to approach the firm if they've had a bad experience. And if you're an entrepreneur, or if you know an entrepreneur, or if you work at a small startup, or if you're going to start a company one day, some things you can do. One, you can choose your money carefully. You can think about diversity and inclusion practices of investors when you choose who to approach. Your business is valuable. Investing in you is a huge opportunity for investors, and be choosy with where you take that opportunity. Promote the sorts of VCs who are already doing the work to make their portfolios inclusive. Second and third, you can support underrepresented founders as well as founders who have had bad experiences. These are the founders who are often most discouraged, who've had to battle a lot to get where they are, and any sorts of friendship or support you can extend are going to be huge for making their businesses succeed. And then finally, you can get it right at your company. Think about the culture of your company. Think about what policies you need to have in place to have a really strong foundation for a healthy culture. And I believe that policies around harassment, discrimination, et cetera, are crucial in setting the foundation for a good culture to grow. If this sparked any stories or thoughts, then I would love to hear from you. And once again, let's give a big round of applause for the 14 VCs at TechBBQ who have already done a lot of this work. Amazing leaders at the forefront of VC in Europe, and we're really thrilled with the work everyone has done. And that's it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.